All right, we are live. Jessica, do you want to go ahead and start us off?
Sure. Welcome to our weekly sessions for musicians. This is our ninth mindfulness session, and I'm Jessica Koebbe. I have my DMA and other degrees in piano performance and specialize in helping teachers learn how to address performance anxiety and adopt mindfulness practices in their private teaching. I teach at Mid-American Nazarene University, and I'm the founder of Mindful Music Pedagogy. I'm joined today by Francesca Leo, who is the chair of the Puerto Rico Flute Symposium Wellness Committee and the founder of Playing Without Pain, a resource that helps musicians and teachers address or prevent performance-related injuries. So our first few sessions have addressed the relationship between the body and the brain as it relates to breathing. Then at the end of 2020, we shifted over to looking at the relationship between the brain and the body. And all sessions are archived on the Puerto Rico Flute Symposium's page, as well as playingwithoutpain.com and mindfulmusicpedagogy.com. If you're a music educator and you want to share this video with your students, we do offer the recorded Zoom sessions, which you can find on the Diaz del Moral Foundation website, which is diazdelmoralfoundation.org, and then /wellness for musicians. You can also send us an email at wellness@prflutesymposium.org, where we can share the MP4 files with you directly. And they're archived on our YouTube sites. You can also drop us a question or a comment down here in the comment section of the live feed, or send an email to us if you've got a question or a comment that you'd like for us to address in a future session. If you'd like to make a donation, you can visit the link in the description. And now today, we're going to continue with the relationship between the brain and the body, and we'll go through an active physical warm-up routine that you can do before your practice sessions to warm up your muscles physically before you begin your musical warm-up. So I invite you to take a breath with me, and then I'll turn things over to Francesca.
Great, thank you so much, Jessica. So as Jessica mentioned, today we will be talking about physical warm-ups. So why do musicians need to warm up? Warming up is a common practice performed before physical activities to best prepare and enable the body to withstand the workout or match. So warm-ups increase your muscle and body temperature, which therefore decreases the resistance of your muscles and joints and improves flexibility. It also increases the blood flow to your muscles, elevates your baseline oxygen consumption levels, and includes psychological benefits as well. Active warm-ups are the most commonly utilized strategy and are strongly recommended by professionals to increase performance enhancement and also prevent injury. According to the Performing Arts Medicine Association course, there is a correlation between performance-related injuries and warming up in musicians. A significantly lower percentage of musicians who regularly practiced physical warm-ups before practicing experienced performance-related pain and injury than musicians who did not warm up at all before practice or performance. So it is recommended to engage in 5 to 15 minutes of active warm-ups at an increasing moderate to high intensity level before your practice sessions. These warm-ups can include aerobic and endurance activity and dynamic and static stretching. Today we will be going through a 5-minute physical warm-up routine that you can incorporate into the beginning of your practice sessions. Physical warm-ups must be completed less than 5 minutes before you begin playing your instrument to ensure that your muscles are still warm. If you warm up and then walk away for a bit, be sure to include another 2-minute warm-up directly before you begin playing. So here's an example of an off-the-instrument warm-up as recommended by professionals through the PAMA course. And we will begin seated. I'm going to have Jessica do this with me so that you can see 2 different demonstrations of it. So go ahead and find a comfortable seat if you don't have one already. And we'll start by just taking a deep breath. And you can do a couple of those if you're feeling extra tense or stressed today. So now we're just going to start by doing 6 to 7 slow neck rolls. And they're going to be half neck rolls, so you won't go all the way around. You'll just go halfway to each side. So go ahead and put your head down and slowly roll to the left and then to the right. Be sure to keep this slow. If you experience any popping sensations or any just feelings that aren't so positive, go ahead and reduce the motion or the range that you do this movement and go slower. So we'll do about 2 more of these. And it helps to breathe through it as well. Okay, so slowly bring your head back up. And now I'm gonna have you stand up, so I'll move my chair. Okay, so we're gonna start by just marching in place. So we'll do this for about 30 seconds. This is intended to elevate your heart rate as we begin adding some additional movements. Okay, so now we're gonna do some arm circles forward. Don't go too fast and be sure not to arch your back. So keep your back nice and neutral, your spine nice and neutral. We're gonna do 10 forward and 10 backwards. So our last count is about 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, now we're gonna reverse directions. Keep marching. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, keep marching. Now we're going to put your arms in front of you and make your palms face towards the ceiling. Okay, now we're going to bend our arms up and then bring them down. So up and bring them down. And we'll do 10 of these. This is 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you're experiencing any tension or especially pain during this, reduce the range of motion so you don't have to go as far up. You can kind of hang out in like this area down here. All right, so let's do 2 more. Okay, and now keep marching. We're almost done marching, I promise. Now we're gonna stretch out our hands. So you can have your hands down at your sides when you do this. I'm gonna bring them up. You can have them up if you want. I'm gonna bring them up just so that you can see. So we're gonna make fists, and then we're gonna stretch out as far as you can, then make a fist again, stretch out as far as you can, and make sure your wrist stays neutral. You don't want your wrist to be like bent. You want it to be nice and comfortable. The most important part is stretching out the fingers as wide as possible. Okay. All right, and let's do 2 more of these. Good. Okay, and now we can stop marching now because we're going to move into the static stretches. So go ahead and bring your arms above your head. We're just gonna do a nice side stretch. We're gonna hold this for 15 seconds. Okay, this one always feels really nice. I love this stretch. Okay, now come to the center and we're gonna switch sides. And be sure to breathe. Okay, and then come back to the center. You can repeat that 2 or 3 more times on each side if you would like, but for the sake of time, we're going to keep moving. So now, here is when you can do a forearm stretch. So go ahead and bring your left arm out. For this, it's important, you don't want to grab at your fingers to do the stretch. You want to be sure that you're kind of pulling your palm back. So just really gently, because this can be a really intense stretch. We're going to go 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off. And if you need a modification, if you're not really feeling a stretch, you can make a fist in this position. But for me, it feels pretty intense, so I'm going to keep it here. Okay, let's go like 10 more seconds. Okay, and slowly bring it down. You can shake out your arm if you need to. And so ideally you will do that 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off, 3 times on each arm. Don't go more than 3 times because that'll be just the right amount of stretching. Okay, let's do the other arm. So remember, don't grab at your fingers. Just pull your palm towards you just a little bit. Just until you feel a little bit of a stretch on the top of your forearm. And again, if you need a modification, if you're not feeling it, you can make a fist. But I'm going to stay here. And we'll go 10 more seconds. Okay, and slowly bring it down. You can shake out your arms. So again, you can repeat that 3 times on each arm, 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off, no more than 3 times. Okay, so now is my favorite part. We get to go into a forward fold. So this is the last part of the physical warm-up routine. This is meant to just release tension in your upper body where a lot of us musicians carry a lot when we play. So I'm going to have you slowly bend at your hips and make sure your knees are bent and unlocked. You don't want to have your knees locked for this. And your feet should be hip width apart. And just go down as far as feels comfortable, and then you can just let your arms hang. You can also clasp opposing elbows like this while you're hanging, and you can sway from side to side. So we'll stay here for about 15 seconds. You can always stay for longer if you want. Just let your head hang. You can shake it yes, and you can shake it no. Okay, and now to get up, come up really slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae. And bring your head up last. Okay, so that is the physical warm-up routine. And Jessica, if you have any comments on like how you're feeling, I would love to know.
That last one felt great.
I know.
I always keep my attention in my lower back and then in my shoulders. So doing letting the gravity just kind of pull the weight of my head down. And then of course just the bend, really stretched out both of those spots.
Good.
I do have a question about the neck roll. Could we do that one more time? Because when you had your head down, were you doing it like this?
Oh, okay, so it's hard to see because of my hair, probably. Okay.
You're fine. Mine's a disaster, but
let's see if I can get. Okay.
And then do you ever do it backwards too, or do you just do the front half?
Just the front half.
Okay.
Backwards can put a lot of strain on the neck, especially if you're prone to tension or injury. So it's the safest to go forward.
Okay. Okay.
And let me see if you can see it better. So bring your chin down to your chest.
Okay.
And then slowly just like roll your head to each side. So you're kind of leading with like the top of your head.
And the stretch then should be felt like
be in your scalene muscles, which is along the side. Yeah, right here. Okay. So it's this muscle like going down.
Yes. Okay.
That's what you should feel it in. And you can hang out if you find a spot that feels really nice.
Yeah.
Hang out there for a couple seconds and just breathe through it. And then gently roll to the next side.
And is there a limit on that one of how many times you should or shouldn't do that, or does it?
6 to 7. There's no limit. Just don't overdo it.
Sure. Okay.
But like I said, if you find like one side feels a little bit more tense, feel free to just like hang out there, and you can even put a hand on it. Sometimes
Yeah.
that helps. Like me putting a hand on it just reminds me to like invite ease and tension, or not tension, ease and freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had a question on the forearm stretch. So when you're doing it like this, would it ever be appropriate? I guess if I do it, so would it ever be appropriate to do this as well?
Yeah. You can do it up. I just didn't demonstrate that one, but again, when you do up, don't pull from your fingers.
Okay.
Your hand.
Got it. Okay.
And you can hold that for 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off again.
Okay.
If you ever experience like severe pain, just don't do it. Or if you can make it like 10 to 15 seconds before you experience some kind of pain, just reduce the time so that you don't have pain. It should just feel like a nice stretch, but not too severe.
Okay. Well, great.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to move my computer.
We just exercised. But yeah, so I love doing this before practicing. It really just helps me warm up my muscles, and then I find that I experience less pain symptoms the more that I move my body before playing, as long as you're taking appropriate breaks. So about 15 to 20 minutes of practicing, be sure to take a 5-minute break. During that break, don't be on your phone. Try not to be on your phone the whole time, because that'll continue to use your hand muscles, which really you should just be resting. You can sit, you can hang them down by your sides. Just rest them as much as possible.
I'd assume that would also just help rest your eyes too.
Yeah.
Old eyes.
Yeah. You can meditate, you can move, you can go for a walk. But yeah, just try not to engage your hand muscles too much when you're actively resting.
Do you have a minute to speak about or speak to the idea that is, I think, really common in music circles that I'm trying to phrase this correctly, but I think there's a little bit of this idea that kind of the no pain, no gain, the thinking of like, well, if you're practicing gently or, having this kind of mindful approach to practicing, then you're not doing it right or you're not doing it hard enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was something I've been there. That was my mindset, especially when I was in undergrad. I was like, if I'm taking any breaks, like someone else is going to be practicing harder. If I didn't practice that extra 5 minutes, I'm not going to make it for this audition, which is just really, really not the case. And oftentimes it just makes things worse. And if you're practicing already in a mindset where you feel like you have to go above and beyond to just really work harder than everyone else, chances are there's a lot of negativity going on in your mind too, which often leads to cram practicing. Some people even, like, I've heard the term like punishing a run or a passage until you get it perfectly. I feel like that mindset kind of goes hand in hand with no pain, no gain. But it's so important to take care of your mental and physical health, because that will just increase longevity. And once you find the optimal times that you have the most energy to practice throughout the day, and you're just really focused and you're curious in the practice room, and you have goals lined up that aren't too ambitious, that's really helpful. And honestly, once I started doing that, I got so much more done in the practice room than just running the same passage over and over again until it was right. And if I practiced mistakes when I was running through things, those mistakes would get ingrained. So really just taking a mindful approach in the practice room, especially with difficult passages, that's the way to go, and it will save you so much time. So did you want to add on to that? Because I know you've done a lot of research in mindfulness and in practicing and everything.
Well, I mean, kind of the same thing. That was my idea too. I mean, I spent, it's not an exaggeration, I spent 8 to 10 hours a day in the practice room in undergrad because I felt behind when I started, and I was behind. But I overdid it. I didn't have any injuries, thankfully, but I did develop a lot of negative mental tracks that I spent a lot of years trying to dig out of. And then in my master's, my teacher finally just took me aside and said, look, if you can't figure out how to get everything done that you need to get done in 4 hours, and this is piano, so it's different than, wind or other instruments, voice for sure. But he said, if you can't figure out how to get done what you need to in 4 hours, then your practicing is inefficient. And that 4 hours, like I was also doing a heavy chamber music and accompanying load in addition to all my, solo work. So I was doing about 20 hours a week just outside of my, as work, rehearsal work that I had to be doing for these other things too. So that 4 hours was supposed to include all of my solo prep for recitals plus all the chamber work. So that I felt like that, I didn't think that was possible, but, over time I realized that, I have a lot of really inefficient habits built into my practice time. And I mean, some days I still had to practice more than that, just if somebody threw something at me last minute. But in general, that really challenged me to shift my thinking and my mindset in the practice room. And now, of course, yes, I tell my students all the time, don't panic practice. Nothing good happens when we're in that mode. So, but I would also just say that I think there may be a little bit of a stigma that, okay, yeah, sure, we should be mindful, but that's kind of for the lesser musicians. So if I can brag on you for just a minute, just to say it really does work, because do you want to share, you just had a really successful moment this weekend? That's so cool. And I think it's important for people to know.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's that I've definitely experienced that mindset where I'm like, oh, that's great for someone else, but not me. And I think that's just, it's a common perfectionistic tendency for a lot of musicians. Okay, well, everyone else can do that, and that sounds wonderful for them, but I don't get to do that. So I've been working really hard on just trying to figure out an efficient way to practice and get everything done. And I've been advancing to finals, fortunately, for a couple of competitions this year. And that's all been through the efficient practicing that I've been doing. Ever since the pandemic started, I have not practiced more than 2 hours a day. And I've just, part of that has been with managing schedules and also managing pain symptoms that have come back from the injury that I had. But I try and spread it out as much as possible. I don't practice things that I already know well. I only work on things that I don't know as well and that I want to improve. And then adopting a more positive mindset to practicing has been really helpful as well. And you can do it. I didn't think I would ever be able to do it, but you can do it, and you should, if you are practicing efficiently, you should feel a sense of accomplishment each day and after you leave the practice room, which very well might be your own room right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it should become the norm to develop a sense of positive feelings around the practice room rather than negative, I think, and to feel happy when we're in there and at calm and at peace. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's both of our goals with all of this is to encourage musicians if that's possible. So
yeah, well, we'll be talking more about that in the coming weeks, Jessica. So if you wanted to introduce what we'll be talking about next week.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll just wrap it up here, but yeah. So, so if you haven't, I don't think we've shared our kind of overarching, framework for this, but way back, one of the first sessions that we did was doing this 3B scan, which is taking a really, 5-minute, really short period of time to sit and build perspective and awareness and connectedness through addressing the breath and then the body and then the brain. And so then we talked about it and decided to model on an augmented scale our sessions, at least for now, based on that model. So our first few sessions were on breathing. And now obviously we're working on sessions focused on the body and tension and stress. And now we're getting ready to shift over to the brain. And so next week and the week after, we'll be focusing on some mindfulness things, as well as some visualization exercises that we can all use in the practice room and then also in performance. So If you'd like to look up any of the previous sessions, you are welcome to do that on the Puerto Rico Flute Symposium Facebook page, where they're all archived. They're also archived on the Diaz del Moral Foundation website under Wellness Sessions. Also on playingwithoutpain.com, which is Francesca's site, or mindfulmusicpedagogy.com, which is mine. And again, if you got a question or if there's something you'd like to see us talk about in the future, drop it in the comments and we'll do that. So stay tuned for next week, same time, same place. Have a good week.
Thank you. Bye.